citizens. Both Denver and New York City are spending hundreds of millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars. So the citizens are paying all that money for people who are not citizens. And you won't believe where some of the money is going. New York City effectively paid $220 million to Pakistan in order to rent the Roosevelt Hotel as a full-time shelter for people who were not citizens, who many of them came across our border illegally, but they're here. Vivek Ramaswamy is going after this with this quote. A taxpayer-funded hotel for illegal immigrants is owned by the Pakistani government, which means NYC taxpayers are effectively paying a foreign government to house illegals in our own country. This is nuts, end quote. Now let's just go on over to the sanctuary city of Denver. According to one nonpartisan research report, the city has spent more than $356 million on its migrant response since December of 2022. That comes out to nearly $8,000 per migrant and 8% of the city's total budget. Now, that word migrant is not synonymous with illegal immigrant. And when you look at the percentages of people who came here either illegally or really do need to leave for crimes they're still committing, that's a big chunk. $356 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of money. There's a formula here, and let's put it very simply. You are an American citizen. You go to your job. You work 9 to 5. Maybe you work 2 jobs. Maybe you work more than 40 hours a week. Then you hand over this lump sum of cash to the federal government. If you're in a blue state like here in New York, you hand it over to the state government and to the city government. And then how confounding is it to you that you learn your money went to a foreign country
Pakistan,
to house foreigners who are illegal immigrants who came in illegally? Oh, wait, but there's more. The cherry on top of all of this, and it's not a cherry, it's a huge, huge problem. Laken Riley murder suspect received taxpayer-funded stay at Roosevelt Hotel. So you funded Jose Ibarra, a murderer, to stay in a luxury hotel before he killed a 22-year-old in Georgia who should still be with us here today. That's how it worked.
And we know post that trial just a couple of weeks ago that he and his brother were members of that Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. So if you want to hook up with your homies from south of the border who want to kill people, run cartel drugs, do all the thing, I guess you go to the hotel that Pakistan owns at the Roosevelt and then have American taxpayers pay for your stay.
You know what else is crazy, too? You know, a big chunk of federal money was handed out by the Biden administration to a lot of states. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons earlier this year you started seeing states on the jobs reports doing better than expected. Like, oh, the jobs reports were great. You know, all that money was designed to be spent specifically for things like to fatten up the jobs report or these sort of programs. But think about that tweet that Vivek retweeted, that X post. In conjunction with the International Monetary Fund, a $1.1 billion loan to Pakistan. Wait a minute. We're putting Americans at risk to put money into the pockets of the International Monetary Fund, which, by the way, lends money to these third world nations at rates that the mafia would blush at, right? I mean, you talk about the establishment, the international cartel of establishment holding everyone back and manipulating everything. This is nuts that your taxpayer money is going through all of these sort of things to deceive us and put us in harm at the same time. It's crazy.
I told you he was leaning in.
I think you.
International Monetary Fund.
IMF. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Charles, because that blew me away when I saw this initial report this morning that it was the IMF that's obviously loaning money to Pakistan. And by the way, it's the Pakistani airlines that owns the Roosevelt Hotel and then lease it back to the city of New York, who gets federal funding, but then also remember state and local taxpayers. To your point, Kaylee, they're the ones that are funding all of this.
That seems so dirty.
It is. It's just a complete misuse of funding, and it just goes in a big fat circle. And this is why when Eric Adams was saying it's going to be $10 billion, and he was asking Biden for billions, before he got indicted, by the way, that the Biden administration was scoffing. I don't know if that was politics or if that was just the fact that these estimates for what this was going to cost the city were completely out of control. One of the things that's happening to our local economy really quick, this year you've got all these tourists, here for the holidays, right, in New York City. Hotel prices are at new records, 7% higher than last year. So who is going to end up funding all of this? Tourists.
Yeah.
People coming to experience Christmas in New York.
They're soaking them so that they have cash left over to give it to people who came here illegally and want to sleep there.
The thing is, it's nuts to us, but not to the left. And that's what's so crazy about this. And you follow their line of thinking in all of this. I mean, look at after the trial of Laken Riley's killer, what did a media headline read? Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. Not Laken Riley, the innocent person in this, but the illegal immigrant killer who came into our country who shouldn't be in the first place. Somehow he's the victim in this. Or you look at the interview between ABC's Martha Raddatz and J.D. Vance when she said, well, it's only a handful of apartment complexes that Trey De Arauga has taken over in Aurora, Colorado. And his response was, Martha, do you hear yourself? Do you realize how crazy this sounds? Or the fact that under the Biden administration, we've had hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens here, convicted criminals or facing charges that they have allowed to step foot in America. So, it should be nuts, but it's not to the left. And they have this twisted mentality where somehow they are putting, illegal aliens ahead of American citizens. We go last, according to them.
So that number that you just were talking about, all of those who've come from other countries and they broke into our country, so they broke our law, but they had committed other crimes before. So just a few weeks ago, that number was 425,000. Today, we had it on the Faulkner Focus, and I said, hey, has that number moved? Yeah, it's over 435,000. You mean you found 10,000 more and they're still here?
Well, and how many more
Why can't you get rid of these people?
And how many are going to flood to sanctuary cities between now and January 20th?
Yeah.
49 days.